What does the Buddhist say to the hot dog vendor? You doing it? Make me one with everything. As Jefferson said about religion in general. As Jefferson said about religion in general, that neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg. Never mind. Do you know what the hot dog vendor says in return? Not everyone knows part two. Well, he makes him one with everything and hands the Buddhist a slathered dog. The Buddhist hands over a $20 bill. That's all he's got under his saffron robes. Munches a bit, waits. He says, no money is forthcoming. And he says finally to the vendor, where's my change? And the vendor says, change comes only from within.
I think all filth is local. And that a joke isn't a joke unless it's at somebody's expense. So there's this guy fighting traffic driving home in Los Angeles. Really tough on the freeway. And he knows he's going to be late home, so he picks up his car phone and he punches in the number. The voice answers, "Si?" He says, "Teresa? Si, senor?" Just tell the missus, would you wake her up? I've got something to tell her. She leaves the phone, comes back, says, "Mrs. in bedroom, senor." Well, wake her up, I've got to talk to her. "No, Mrs. in bedroom with other hombre." Okay, she's still fighting this fucking traffic. He says, "Okay, where are you? In the den?" She says, "See? Look at my desk. Pull open the left-hand drawer." Have you pulled it open? "See?" "Is there a gun there?" "See?" "Okay, take the gun, go upstairs, shoot her, shoot him, get on the extension." "See?" Long, fighting the traffic, juggling the whole thing, and finally the extension's picked up, and he says, "Teresa, is it you?" She said, "See, have you killed him?" "See." "Okay, now I want you to open the window and throw both of the bodies out into the swimming pool." "No swimming pool here, senor." "Is this 3102? Now, that you'll notice is a clean joke. I'll give you the condensed version. Picture, if you will, the romance that kindles between a young man and a young woman. Her eye is first caught by his extraordinary courtesy. He will always take her coat. He will always open the door. He's always unfailingly polite. He's a man of extraordinary consideration. He finally talks her into the sack. You can build in the extensions later if you want. So extraordinary is the convulsion of pleasure to which he brings her, and the attention that he pays in order to bring this off, if you will, that she lies hardly daring to speak and says, I never knew that it could be this way with a man and a woman. I just wish there was something I could do to please you as you've pleased me. And he says, well, as a matter of fact, there is something you could do if you cared to. And she said, well, just name it. And he said, sort of, I kind of wish you'd give me a blowjob. And she says, no, I wish you'd said anything but that. Something tells me that if I do that, it won't be the same between us. You won't respect me. You won't admire me, esteem me, revere me in the same way. You won't defer to me. So he's a gentleman. He takes it very well. This is the first date. It goes on like that. It goes on like that for for a year or so, and it's always the same. And you can do your. And every time she says, "I can't tell you," and if only, and he says, "Well, actually, since you mention it," and no, but she says, "You won't. I know it won't be the same. You won't respect." They get married. The honeymoon night is a torrential tribute by him to her. Of every conceivable attention. But in the meantime, always the door held open, always the taxi door held open, always the coat taken, always the deference and the tenderness. But even on a honeymoon night, she just won't, because respect is a big thing. The 10th anniversary comes. See how I'm leaving you the room now. The silver wedding. I think we're talking about the pearl anniversary. Takes her to Cancun or Cayman Islands, I don't know, somewhere beautiful, the finest suite, the limo, the thoughtful, well-chosen gifts, the door held open, the attention, the courtesy, and the unfailing pleasuring. And finally, she lies back and she says, again, in a dream of bliss, "You've given me all these decades of love and care and tenderness and sex. And I just wish, if only I could, requite this in some way." And he says, "Well, you know what? I know I've mentioned this before, but if you could just see your way to..." And she thinks, really, why not? What can it hurt? So, in what is still an almost maidenly manner, she falls to, she does her best, and it's pretty good. And then it's over and she thinks, "No, that was wonderful. I should have learned to please him like this before. And I should never have worried about his attentions, his courtesy, his deference." And they're lying there unable to speak in this dream of mutual assurance, and the phone rings. And it rings and rings and rings and keeps on ringing in their suite, and he says, "Aren't you going to get the phone, cocksucker?" Well, it's been real, and you've been very... And it goes like this. It was early last September. As near as I remember, I was falling down the street in drunken pride, when I fell into the gutter, thinking thoughts I dare not utter. And a pig came up and lay down by me side. As I lay there in that gutter, thinking thoughts I dare not utter, a fair young maid came by, and she did say, "You can tell a man who boozes by the company he chooses." And at that the pig got up and walked away. And the pig got up, slowly walked away. The pilot, it's an easy takeoff. He slumps back, tells the passengers the usual stuff, then throws the microphone back hangs it up, and says to his co-pilot, "Geez, well, that's over. All I need now is a cup of coffee and a blowjob." But he hasn't hung it up right, and it echoes down the cabin. So one of the stewardesses... Did you see that Senator Kennedy, by the way, on the Stewardship Act of the Prevention Treaty, referred to it as the Stewardess Act 3 times before it was taken out of the congressional record? That's actually true. So the stewardess, hearing this and panicking from the back, runs up the aisle to tell what's happening in the cockpit and alert them. And as she runs up the aisle, someone shouts rather heartlessly, "Hey, lady, don't forget the coffee."
Visitor goes to the Western Wall. Anything he can do. Visitor goes to the Western Wall, sees a man tearing at his beard, banging his head on the wall, shoving messages into it, rate of knots, wailing and flailing, watches with fascination. When the guy finally breaks off, says, "Excuse me, I couldn't help noticing you were being unusually devout in your addresses to the wall, to the divines. Do you mind if I asked you what you were praying for?" He said, "I was praying that there should be peace, that there should be mutual love and respect between all the peoples in this area." And he said, "And what do you think?" says the visitor. Says, "Well, it's like talking to the wall."
Hitch 22 also derives from a game that we once made up about the titles of books and films and so on that don't quite make it somehow.
Shall we take it in turns?
You go first if you like.
No, you. It's
All right,
your
well,
idea.
All right, well, A Farewell to Weapons.
The Big Gatsby.
For Whom the Bell Rings.
Portrait of a Woman.
Yes. Laughter House 5.
Good Expectations.
Toby Dick. Which there's a variation,
Toby,
which is
yes.
Moby Prick.
Mr. Zhivago.
To Kill a Hummingbird.
2 days in the life of Ivan Denisovich.
Blueberry Finn.
And Hitch 22.
Hitch 22.
He said Hitch 22, and I thought that might come in very handy one
Yes,
day.
yes. Uncle Tim's
Shall we do
cabin.
one more game, or would that be rough?
Well, the others are all obscene, but they could take it.
But you know, people come here for smut.
Yeah, well,
I know this crowd at the Y, and I know what they want.
as always,
Filth is what
as
they
always in matters of smut, I defer to you.
want. Well, it may seem pathetic, but as I was saying earlier about other enterprises, if you can build muscle, you can keep trying with something. It may seem puerile or banal, but it'll pay off in the end. So we used to sit around in a terrible Turkish Cypriot kebab house and other places too, and just take out a well-known word from any well-known phrase or saying. In this case, the word heart, and replace it with the word dick. So you would get bury my dick at Wounded Knee. I left my dick in San Francisco.
Yes.
That's when your dick aches begin.
Yes.
You'll be doing this later on as you make your way
Yes.
home.
All of these are like computer viruses. Once they're in your brain,
They'll
you know, the
Dick Break Hotel. Don't go breaking my dick. Well, anyway, so we would start. It got really bad. We were emailing to each other, comparing notes and so forth. But it became a bit of a ding and search, sort of slightly just for its own sake. And then one day, Woody Allen runs off with his daughter, his adopted daughter, and decides to set up housekeeping with her. And he gets asked, "Mr. Allen, what are you doing? Running off with your adopted daughter and making her your wife?" And he says, "Well, the heart wants what it wants." Made it all somehow worthwhile.
all right. Yes. Okay.
I should also tell your own personal one.
Which one?
The great achievement. Well, I say that finally, when Salman had joined our circle, the whole standard of stuff went up. And one day, and it's the bits of it that belong entirely to him, one day someone came to a dinner party and said he'd been trapped on a plane with a Robert Ludlum novel and was bitching about it as one might. There's nothing else to read. And he said, I'll condense this, but what would a Shakespeare play be like if Robert Ludlum had titled it? These titles are so portentous, you know, the Eiger whatnot,
Sanction,
and
the Rhineman Exchange.
Born Inheritance, the Rhineman Exchange. And so what would a Shakespeare play look like? And someone bristled. He had no more notice than I'm giving you. I said, okay, what would Hamlet be? And he said, the Elsinore of Vacillation. I thought, well, he can't do that twice. So what about Macbeth? The Dunsinane Reforestation. And we went, I can remember the Rialto sanction.
The Rialto sanction, yes. There's the kerchief implication.
The kerchief implication. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Salman Rushdie.
All right.
I should say, Sir Salman Rushdie.
Back on the other, yes. Romeo and Julie, I liked.
Romeo and Julie.
Yes. Uncle Tim's cabin.
Give us a Latin one.
Well, you can build some in.
Wait, don't back out now. You said it now. Let's hear it.
There was a young fellow named Rex with exceeding small organs of sex. So when charged with exposure, he replied with composure, "De minimis non curat lex."
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's.
There was a young lady from Bruges whose thing was remarkably huge. Observed Louis XIV as he lowered her drawers. Eh bien, après moi, le déluge. The Wally Malou Philosophy Department, ladies and Bruces. It's Eric Idle's great performance at the Hollywood Bowl. It's a real honour to be SK. Oh, Immanuel Kant was a real pissant who was very seldom stable. Martin Heidegger was a boozy beggar. He could think you under the table. David Hume can outconsume Schopenhauer and Hegel. And Wittgenstein was a beery swine. Wittgenstein was a beery swine who was just as sloshed as Schlegel. There's nothing Nietzsche couldn't teach you about the raising of the wrist. Socrates himself was permanently pissed. John Stuart Mill, of his own free will, on half a pint of shandy, got spectacularly ill. But Plato, they say, could stick it away. Half a crate of whiskey every day. Aristotle was a bugger for the bottle. Thomas Hobbes was a slave to his dram, and René Descartes was pissed as a fart. I drink, therefore I am. Yes, Socrates himself is particularly missed. A lovely little thinker. A lovely little thinker. Lovely little thinker, but a bugger when he's pissed. Which is a real thing, and I know many people who've suffered dreadfully from membership in it, not excluding being pulled out of a car by a man in a balaclava and asked, are you Catholic or Protestant? He said, I'm Jewish atheist, actually. He said, what are you, a Protestant Jewish atheist or a Catholic? You laugh. Well, just take any well-known phrase or saying which has the word heart in it. Replace it with the word dick. It cheers me up sometimes. For example, bury my dick at Wounded Knee. I left my dick in San Francisco. Dick Break Hotel. The dick is a lonely hunter. The dick has its reasons. It can really, you know, a whole day go by. And so, but wait, I'll tell you what the payoff is. The payoff is that every time you hear some